do the above shot.
Yeah, there we go.
with the dirty dishes and the clutter in the background.
So, I'm here with JT, PunkBoyInSF from OccupySF. Glad
how's it going?
Yeah, hey, how's it going? Glad we could finally connect, huh?
Yep.
So, you've had a busy few days there with D12 and everything. Tell me what's been going on.
Well, I finally got to, I met Scott one time at OccupySF before he was injured, so it was very happy to see him out and about for the first time, since all that happened. So that was sort of the happiest part of the day, was just to see him and to see him out. He was out for a good, 12 hours with us. I mean, a good part of the day.
Oh, wow. Did y'all do you get to talk to him?
Yeah, I talked to him a little bit. I kind of feel bad, pestering him, because I know that he's sort of, a paparazzi magnet now. So I asked him a few questions, and then Spencer interviewed him, so I kind of just pushed my camera in when Spencer was interviewing him and relayed it on mine. Mm-hmm. Angela Davis spoke again. I saw her at the general strike, and
wow.
So if you go in my YouTube channel, I recorded that one in HD so that I'd have it have a better video of it up on YouTube.
Mm-hmm. I'll have to check that out. We'll get it into rotation on our channel.
Yeah, so other than that, it seemed that we were the only people who didn't meet with any resistance at the port, because Oakland's sort of trying to shake their little bad image, and especially since Scott was leading the march over to the port, I'm sure they were dead set on not re-injuring him. So
yeah, that would be in their best interest at this point, right? He's already going to own the city of Oakland when he's done.
He said people are working on it, but they're still working on trying to figure out which exact cop was it that shot that off at him.
Well, that video that was slowed down, I'm sure you saw it. I mean, it seemed like it was pretty clear the cop that stepped back and I
totally remember somebody putting the badge number out on Twitter that day. If Twitter was not so ephemeral, it was 3 weeks later, so people were asking for the badge number, and I'm like, I know I retweeted it, but it's so far back.
Wow. Yeah, I'll have to do some digging around. So as far as you know, he doesn't have that information?
From what I understand, from what he thought, that they're still trying to figure it out.
All right. Well, we'll definitely have to look around. I'll put the word out on our end, too. Whatever we can do to help. I mean, a lot of us were watching that live. And I know it'll stay with me for the rest of my life. And
it gets played over and over in a lot of the music videos that people make. They use that footage over and over.
Well, I remember just that, hearing them yelling, medic!
Yeah, and just the fact that they lobbed another fucking flashbang at them. I'm sorry, should I be
No, go please, hey.
But just the fact that they lobbed another flashbang, or even if it wasn't a flashbang, just an explosive tear gas grenade, that they lobbed it at him as they were trying to pick him up, was just outrageous.
Just horrifying. It really was.
I mean, I felt all the rage when I saw that, and then the next time that I felt so much rage was pepper spray cop. As soon as I saw that day on YouTube, I was just like,
which one?
the pepper spray cop at UC Davis.
Oh, they're just aren't even any words.
Yeah, and the thing is that a lot of those kids that got pepper sprayed that day, 2 days, it was a day or two before that, they had all chartered buses from UC Santa Cruz, UC Berkeley, and UC Davis to come down to protest the UC Chancellor's meeting that was scheduled to happen at UCSF's Mission Bay campus. And they canceled that meeting. And so they ended up protesting the banks and popped up that tent in front of inside of the Bank of America that day.
Right.
So a few of those kids that got arrested inside the B of A got pepper sprayed 2 days later.
Well, and my understanding is that that day they were, anybody that tried to cover their mouth and their nose or whatever, that the UC Davis cops actually held them down forcibly uncovered their.
I saw footage from Portland where they did that too, where they did it right in that girl's mouth.
That was Liz Nichols. She was a member of our Peace and Safety Committee, and my understanding is they'd hit her in the throat, and she opened her mouth, you know, to gasp for air and to ask them why they hit her. And well, you saw the picture. I mean,
I saw the stills.
Yeah, it was what, about 6 inches away from her mouth? I mean,
well, Fox News says it is a food product, so.
Yeah, we've made many jokes about the wonderful refreshing breath powers of pepper spray.
I think that maybe the thing that I want Anonymous to do, like if any of those hackers, like there's that part in V for Vendetta, because I saw it again I mean, I own the DVD, but I went to the benefit for Occupy Oakland at the Grand Lake Theater last night. Did you see the marquee that they put on the Grand Lake after the showing?
No.
On the marquee it said something like, "Hey, Mayor Kwan and the City Council, this is." I'm assuming it's in response to them trying to save $2 million by closing 5 elementary schools about the same time Occupy Oakland was being raided over and over.
Right.
But it says, like, you know, how do you justify spending $400,000 a month on private security to keep people out of the plaza? And that's all the room they had on the marquee. But so it's going to be interesting. Tomorrow's the Commonwealth Club discussion on Occupy. Where is it coming from and where is it going? Kind of discussion, and it's got a couple of scholars. I think a linguist from UC Berkeley, and Jean Kwan will be there. So all of us plan on mic checking her every time she says something that's a blatant lie or that's you know, objectionable.
And Spencer's going to be there filming it in high def.
Yeah, I asked him, I said, "Do you need a ticket?" And he's like, "No, I've already talked to them and gotten permission to stream it out." So he'll be there with the HDU stream camera.
And that starts at 7 a.m.?
No, 7 p.m. Oh,
7 p.m.
No, I couldn't be up that early.
I was going to say, well, we're all going to be a little cross-eyed. That's kind of early.
No, I was a night owl anyway, so, you know, but this raid schedule is, I'll forever be sleeping with one eye open from now on.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, all of us. It's, you know, I think collectively, and maybe you can give me your thoughts on this, but, we're all deeply troubled about the NDAA and what that means.
At noon we've got a protest tomorrow against it here.
Well, and we had one here, I want to say it was yesterday, the day before. They're kind of running together for me, but my understanding is today there was some updates made to the bill, and I saw just a small portion of the language. I believe that they've redefined their definition of terrorist as any belligerent.
None of it scares me. I mean, I have nothing to hide. I think I streamed last week. I streamed out of my house, and you know, I'm like, "Here's my address. You know, come get me."
So I had to pause it for a minute to free up some disk space. Just to recap what you said, there's been somebody that's been following you since Occupy San Francisco began, or how long would you say that you've been seeing this person?
Probably since I got back from the second Oakland raid. I started seeing him a couple times, and the first day that I remember specifically seeing him, I think it was the day that we tried to call for a second op BART, like the day that we were trying to set to protest the BART stations for closing. The day that I think it was the day after the first raid at Occupy Oakland, where they were sort of marching through the street.
Beginning of November. End of
around
October. Yeah, it was when the BART stations just could blocked the cell phone access, correct?
No, that was in July, and that was when Anonymous came down with their big protest.
Well, I thought they did it again after the Occupy movement started.
Me and a bunch of people had called for an op-BART. The op-BART Twitter feed had called for an op-BART, and there was only like 8 of us that showed up. Four of us were reporters, but right. I showed up in my guy Fox mask and everything, and there were like 150 extra cops that day. So we recalled it to like, Operation Waste Police Resources is how we renamed it after that.
So you saw that guy that was that first
day
time?
when I showed up in my Guy Fawkes mask. So I think they might think I'm like an anonymous hacker, but I don't really, I don't do any hacking, but I have no problem retweeting leaks and retweeting docs on people that screw us over. So
Sure.
I'm sure I'm considered a cyber terrorist just for retweeting nowadays.
Well, they look at Shang Yangping, was China's first Twitter prisoner. She went to jail and was just released from hard labor, for one retweet in China. So, certainly if the NDA gets passed, I mean, we're not far behind them with the erosion of civil liberties as far as I'm concerned. What do you think that we've accomplished in the last 3.5 months? I mean, if you could distill it down to
as the Occupy movement as a whole.
Sure. Just collectively, what do you feel like we've been able to do so far?
If nothing else, like good or bad, we've definitely changed the national dialogue. I mean, a lot of the stuff that the economists have been talking about for years in the income disparity has really been brought to the forefront, if for nothing else, by the people in the tents. And every time I think of tents, all I can think of is the tent monsters in Melbourne now.
I know, aren't they beautiful? The redheads is my favorite.
Oh yeah, and then they stripped her the next day. That was awful.
No, they did not.
Oh, you didn't see it? Oh,
no.
Yeah. Just look up Tent Monster Occupy Melbourne on YouTube and see what they did to her the next day. They only went after her, the beautiful redhead.
Yes.
Because she was female, and they basically used a knife and like sliced the tent off of her and left her in her panties right there in the park. They didn't like being made fools of. It was pretty awful. But you follow Asher Wolf? She's actually in Melbourne.
Yeah, she follows me on Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, she's awesome.
So that's Asher?
No, that's not her, but it's a friend of hers.
Okay.
From there. But yeah, Asher Wolf tweets me a lot of that stuff. And it's Asher Wolf and I think Wheeze MGK, Brian, who started the Citizens Media Guild that's trying to get us sort of unionized.
Right.
And doing it offshore so that our government can't really mess with the organization.
Oh, I would love that.
Yeah, they're busy working with lawyers, so I'm hoping that sometime soon there'll be something legitimate, some sort of legitimizing umbrella over us as a citizens news organization.
So, anyway, we got distracted with tent monsters, so, yeah.
Yeah, so as far as that goes and what we've accomplished, I know that we've changed the national dialogue. Everybody's talking about income disparity. And I don't call him President Obama right now. I call him Candidate Obama. They're basically all using all of our terminology to try to co-opt and get us all to vote for them now. And a lot of that going on. There's small steps, like in Occupy LA. I think a week ago, a cop used a mic check to ask them to move over to a different side of City Hall so that a movie shoot wouldn't be interrupted.
Yeah, we got one on
that Sean Penn movie.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that are sort of interesting. Just I guess the plight of the working people that's sort of being brought to light. But what I keep saying is that we can't really separate the environmental justice from the economic justice, because if we don't stop what's going on, and especially with all of nothing that came out of Durban, South Africa this week, we really need to step up our game.
Yeah. I find
without Mother Nature, there is no economy.
Indeed. I mean, it's all a moot point if there's nothing around by the time we're all done arguing about how to make things better. I mean, that should be our number one resource. And I think, with direct actions like the tar sands, the Keystone protest, I mean, and
around the world, they're doing a lot of stuff. I mean, a lot of the indigenous places and people in Africa, and I forget which nation it was, but they're basically stepping it up against the oil puppets around the world. And a lot of indigenous places indigenous people in Canada are blocking a lot of the pipelines that are being built. So if we take out that oil infrastructure, maybe not by blowing it up physically, but by, occupying it and making sure that they can't do anything, once that oil money's taken away, that whole shit house comes crashing down like a house of cards.
Indeed. And then, hopefully, everybody's forced to invest some research dollars in alternatives that, we should already be utilizing,
And didn't we just give, I think it was $27 billion in some sort of grant or permit to BP to start re-drilling in the Gulf of Mexico again?
Unbelievable. That's where I grew up. I mean, it's absolutely shameful what they've done to the marine, ecology. It's just, you go into that water out there, and when I was a little girl, you could go swimming, and the water was blue, and you could see the bottom on a clear day. And by the time I left there in the late 80s, early 90s, and you'd get out in the water and it would burn your eyes. You'd have to take bottles of mineral oil or olive oil with you because you'd be covered in oil by the time you got out of the water. It was just gross. I mean, you're swimming in oil, and look what they've done now. It's just, it'll never be the same.
Yeah, and even here, there's still little bits of oil that still wash up on the shore of the bay from that 2000. It was actually when I was in the hospital that spill happened, so I was sort of locked in front of the TV watching that Costco Busan spill in the bay.
Mm-hmm. Well, you mentioned being in the hospital. It's something you and I, have in common is trying to, also get the word out about the importance of healthcare reform and patients' rights and I'm, we've both had the experience of being treated as less than human because we're sick.
Yeah, and my Medi-Cal is about to be cut to, I think 4 or 5 doctor's visits a year without prior authorization. I never had to have prior authorization under Medi-Cal up until these cuts.
So you have see, I'm under Medicare, so you have Medi-Cal there in California?
Yeah, Medi-Cal is our Medicaid program.
Wow. And so under Social Security Disability, you're forced to operate under that program for your medical care?
Yeah, up until the cuts that are about to show up. I've been able to go to any doctor I wanted to, basically, that took Medicaid, and not have to get authorization to go to a specialist, but now I'm going to be forced into one of their HMO programs, which basically is lining the pockets of Blue Cross Blue Shield. Those are the 2 options I have, either Blue Crosses or Blue Shield. And luckily my infectious disease doctor is in both of them. They sent me a thing that said I had to choose. I'm like, well, y'all do the choice because the one doctor I need to have is in either of them. So.
Right. Well, it's been nice that, to see some of the changes that have come through. That I don't know if you're aware that there's a pre-existing program now for on a national level for people with pre-existing conditions, because previously, if you and I tried to go into the private sector to get insurance, we would be denied because we have pre-existing conditions, and they're finally taking steps to make that illegal and to provide some coverage for people that fall into that category. So, that's something.
Life is a pre-existing condition.
Yeah, right. Yeah, certainly never a dull moment. Where would you like to see us go in the next, it's been 3.5 months. So in the next 3.5 months, where do you want to see us?
I'd like to see us trying to stop as many of these illegal foreclosures as humanly possible. I think, I know Roseanne Barr is behind us on this. She's been tweeting back and forth with me that Occupy Our Homes is definitely phase 2 for the movement. So Occupy 2.0 is going to be Occupy Homes, whether it be taking over foreclosures that the banks have already taken to keep them from reselling them and making a profit, whether it be popping up our tents in people's yards who are about to lose their house, finding out which bank is foreclosing on them and occupying in front of that bank and putting pressure on them to refinance and let the people who can afford to stay in their house and who are willing to pay and are basically getting the phone shuffle, helping out all those people, and that will basically grow our numbers by the spring. And then by spring, I hope Occupy 3.0 will basically be our little snowball turning into an avalanche by then.
Yeah, is Oakland planning on sending people to DC in January and March? Or January and May? May.
Are trying to get people to donate us miles to get us out there as long as we don't end up on no-fly list.
Yeah, my sweetie keeps joking about that I'll never fly domestically or internationally again after being involved with Occupy. But, you know, hey, if that's the price that we have to pay to make a change. Yeah, there we go. Well, you know, I have to say that I don't know about you, but being involved the last 3.5 months with Occupy has been a transformative experience for me. Would you say that it's changed you?
It reminds me a lot of the Rainbow family. I've mentioned it a lot of times on my streams, but I've been doing the Rainbow thing on and off since 1996. I sort of dropped off the ball in the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. But it's happy to see Rainbow in the cities, that same energy and taking care of people out in the forest, bringing it into the cities, because it was always hard to separate that, like, you know, that sort of utopian society that we build in the forest for a few weeks around July, and then at the Nationals of 50,000 people out occupying the public land and popping up tents and helping each other and building this little cooperative society, and then going back to the concrete jungle. It's like the merging of those two has been pretty amazing.
That's a very interesting parallel. I've heard that the Rainbow family and that that comparison made before, but I've never heard anybody, you know, put it quite like that. That it's, you know, taking that same vibe and dropping it into the middle of the city.
Yeah, well, the general assemblies that we have that operate on consensus are basically what they call vision councils at the Rainbow family.
Right.
And they operate on consensus as well. And they camp on public land against, they've got the Forest Service that's always trying to figure out where they're going to be, so they can kind of keep the location secret until it happens.
Right.
But the Vision Council basically decides what region it'll be in that year, and then the next year they decide where the actual spot will be in the National Forest. I've been to one. The first one I went to in 1996 was in the southern Missouri at Mark Twain National Forest in the Ozarks. It was gorgeous.
Oh, I bet.
Then the next year was outside of Prineville in Oregon.
Yep. Beautiful there.
After that, I went to was in Montana, out by Missoula, about an hour and a half out of Missoula.
So do they pick remote locations like, you know?
They did them in New Mexico, Pennsylvania. They basically do it on public land in the National Forest, so they're always on public land, in public space.
Nice. And so do the cops let them stay once they get set up?
They can't really do anything about it, seeing as it's public land. It's not like campgrounds where they charge admissions, since they're public land in the National Forest rather than the national parks.
I gotcha.
So they sort of pop up. You know, the Forest Service kind of gives them a little hell. They make a few arrests for people that they catch with drugs, but they're sort of their own lingo too. So when you see a park ranger coming or a Forest Service guy, everybody yells "six up," and you know to hide your stash.
Right.
I think.
We have our ways of communicating.
Yeah, and the thing that I love about the Rainbow Gatherings is, 50,000 people in their own little tiny villages that pop up. There's like oven ovens will make these sort of earthen ovens out of the mud, everything, and bake pizza all through the middle of the night. And there's lots of little places, but you'll just hear shouting and chanting from all the different camps all night of just the choruses of people shouting, "We love you," all back and forth.
Good night, John Boy. Right? That's awesome, though. I'm struck daily by the diversity in our movement, you know? I mean, there are so many different people from so many different walks of life, so many different age brackets, backgrounds. I mean, it's really unique, you know?
Well, I think it's just something that's a long time coming. I mean, I had so many distractions to keep myself occupied before this, and just disgusted with how the world was going. And I mean, it's been a long time coming. I was always jealous of all the protests in the 60s, and I guess I have nothing to be jealous of anymore, because we might actually get something done for the long run.
Yes, right? I
know that George Carlin is up there smiling at us from way up above.
We love you, George.
Yes, definitely.
Hell yes. You know, we've got some big shoes to fill, but I think we brought several pairs of our own. So, you know, I've got nothing but good hopes and good vibes for the future. So it'll be interesting to see, you know, this time next year, we'll have to come look back and see how much farther we've come in that time.
And if we do all end up in FEMA camps, at least we know it'll be one big party going on.
with plenty of drums, right?
They better not take our drums.
No, you know, we can make drums out of anything, so, you know,
all we need is a couple of drumsticks on the bars, right?
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time, especially this late at night. I know we've had a hard time all getting together here, and you've got just a tremendous amount of supporters here in Portland and in Oregon. You know, a lot of people, we stream, you know, you from the channel a lot, you know, as well as Spencer, and we're so incredibly proud of everything that you guys have accomplished there in San Francisco and Oakland.
So just watch this mic check team on tomorrow night.
Hell yeah. 7 p.m. In fact, I'm going to let our facilitator know, because that's where our GA spokes council goes on at the same time, but maybe we could do a split screen action or something, because that sounds like we're all going to want to pop some popcorn and check that out.
Yeah, so if you go to commonwealthclub.org/events, you'll see the list of people who are going to be on the panel there.
All right, and then are you going to be mirroring Spencer's channel, or are you going to be filming from your own, or how is that going to work?
I'll probably just record on my phone and then upload to Ustream later, the mic checks.
Okay, so you won't be live, but he will be?
Yeah, because he's got permission, so
I
don't
gotcha.
want to overstep. So
Okay.
since he got official permission, I'll just let him, since a lot of people know where to find both of us anyway.
Yeah, that works. Well, we'll definitely tune in, and I love the new avatar. You guys will have to check it out. Y'all, the folks at home can't see it, but it looks just like JT, but with bigger ears. Yeah. So,
The Punk Boy Bunny.
the Punk Boy Bunny. I'm telling you, we need to get that on a t-shirt. I would totally rock that. All right.
And
Well,
the little O on boy is
we love you very much. Solid.
and we'll see you on the front line.
All right. All right. Take care, babe.
All right.
All right.
You too.
Bye.